Welcome everybody. This is Beyond the Walls. You're here with me, your boy, young brother, better preach, Harry. I'm here with my man, One, D,
Yep.
Rico,
Stack up, Fed.
and Wendy.
Hello, hello.
We're back. We are back. It's been a little while. COVID-19 is just putting up them dukes. We're fighting it. We're fighting this quarantine. But we're back again to give you another episode to get re-engaged, to get reloaded with y'all. Just wanted to go over some quick current events with y'all. 2020 is taking everybody. 2020 is taking everybody. Want to send an honorable rest in peace to the funny, comical Jerry Stiller. If you remember the father from King of Queens, the father from the classic Seinfeld show, Jerry Stiller was hilarious. One of the funniest old men in television that you ever
100%.
seen. She's probably been sampled on your favorite rap song, Miss Betty Wright. Rest in peace to her. Andre Harrell, that's a big one.
Man,
that's a big one in
that
hip hop.
was crazy. That was crazy, man.
This is getting like out of hand now. It's really getting out of hand with everybody dying and people leaving like in this time. And last of all, Little Richard, who's probably considered the father of rock and roll, who innovated it. He's another pillar in the music industry. And we just kind of wanted to send a shout out to them, their families who are dealing with it, especially during this COVID-19 era where you can't bury people the way you want to. You don't get the closure that you want to. But we're losing a lot during this time. And so just rest in peace. And, we hope that their families find comfort. Another quick current event in news. Miss Adele, who's known to be holding it down for our plus size women, she put up a post and she lost weight, and the big girls came for, not all of them, but the big girls came for her. They came for her.
What do you mean, big?
She's a traitor. She's this. She's that. She's a backstabber because she lost weight, and I don't understand. I don't understand. Y'all need to help me understand as a lady, as our representation for the women. Wendy, I don't understand why some of these big girls are mad at her. Like, she did something for her.
This is like being the only Black person in a white class when they talk about racism and so like, oh, so
Adele's a woman. Wendy, what do you think?
Look, whatever Adele did to make her happy, more power to her. I think though there's too much emphasis on women and their bodies, period. And this premise that when you go through a breakup, you come back looking snatched with this revenge body, right? Khloe Kardashian premise about revenge body. And it's so unhealthy. It's so mentally unhealthy. Focus all your energy on getting this ideal body type in order to redeem yourself. Like, Adele also went through a very public divorce.
She was the one that was recently on like all of these tabloids for like her husband getting all of this money and pretty much reparations and all of that, right?
Yeah,
wow.
Ooh.
So
maybe that was revenge weight then.
I don't know her motivation for losing the. She was a plus size woman before they got married, so I don't know. Maybe she just did it for herself. But there is this premise of, or this thought of this revenge body, and she everything you do is motivated to get back at the person who left you because you're now felt.
Yeah, you hot now. You drip.
Not everybody wants to be thin. Not everybody wants to be skinny. Like, I have no desire to be thin, nor do a lot of women. of, especially women of color, you know, because everything that was undesirable about our bodies, non-melanated people purchase
Everybody
them.
wants now.
I like when the thighs rub together. It makes it rotisserie.
Listen, we now have big lips. They have no lips. They purchase it, and now big lips are beautiful. We have butts and
Nah,
thighs.
them lips does not. The whatever them lips, that little plastic.
Nah, it's not
freaking
working.
Goodyear
not
lips. No way, Jose.
But you know, look, more power to Adele. I was actually also reading this post today that came up about how come Lizzo gets a lot of backlash, and they're both plus size women. And you know, I like to scroll through comments to see what people say. But a lot of people are saying, well, Jill Scott ain't showing her ass every 2 seconds and twerking for, you know, Instagram or whatever. She carries herself.
She was making some love to mics though. Crazy.
She did give a blowjob to a microphone though.
Yes. Crazy. That was crazy.
It was her birthday, guys. All right, relax.
What does that mean?
Special occasion, all right?
Yeah.
But hey, I'm sorry, but Lizzo can kick rocks. That's just how I feel about her. She can kick rocks.
I like
talented, man.
Does a little too much for me, but
It's too much, man. She trying too hard.
It's a lot.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing, right? My thing is that no matter what side you go to, skinny, medium, big, everybody wants to live through that person. That's the problem. Everybody wants to live a life through whoever they feel like that's me. No, be you idiot. Yeah. Be yourself. Okay? If you want to be big by yourself. All right? Like, ain't nobody gonna hold your hand through that process. I understand that there's always a stigma with big girls can't be pretty or they don't have that much clout.
Which is a lie.
It's a huge lie because I know. Oh my god. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. I'll just leave it like that.
Father, but
yeah, I ain't gonna go there. But yo, big women get play. So shout out to y'all. But anyway,
and they look better in jeans too, though. They look way better in skinny jeans. You heard?
Hey, they get a thumbs up,
baby.
But I mean, we also
Rico's silence is intentional.
I'm literally just listening.
You know, we also have to the role that our American culture plays into this stigmatization that thin is in, right? Everywhere we look, it's size 2, and you know, you have to be stick thin and have this body, and you know, designers only make their clothing in certain sizes.
Yeah.
When you go shopping as women, sometimes it's really difficult because they only send like 2 or 3 extra larges and like 20 smalls, 20 mediums. And so like you're literally out of luck when the average American woman is a size 14. That's the average size of
this is true.
America. However, they cater everything to a specific size, which sets the mental expectation that if I am not this size, then I am not okay, I am not worthy, men will not want me, men will not find me attractive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All a lie.
Yeah, I feel you on that. But
tell you what, when they turn on that Cash Money Records putting it down for the 99 and the 2000, you go see who everybody is running to. They not running to the little slim joints, all right?
They going for the baby back ribs.
Heard?
Hey, before we move on, I wanted to go back to the RIPs real quick because
go ahead.
The people we're losing at the moment are the ones who are the responsible for a lot of the stuff we love today.
Word.
Absolutely.
Come on.
It was one of those things where like they gave birth to the thing that gave birth to the thing that gave birth to the thing that you love in 2020 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really important that I guess we do our part to make sure these younger generations understand why the culture's reacting to the losses that the way we are. You know, there's a lot of clips of Andre Harrell And listening to him talk, it's pretty clear, like, you know, he was at the forefront of a lot of the aesthetic you love today. So a lot of the music videos you see, a lot of the stuff you see,
Trailblazer.
He was one of the first people to kind of be like, to put that out there, kind of thing. You know, Jerry still is one of these people where he's a person that a lot of people may not have known his name, but when you saw his face, you naturally laughed because you were like, "Yo, that's that guy."
The angrier he was, the more
Word.
funny it was.
Right. He's the guy that you love. He's the guy that that you know, you just remember him yelling at people and stuff like that. So, and then obviously Little Richard, who I listened to this podcast. It's a history of rock music in 500 songs, and Little Richard is one of these Forrest Gump type characters where it's like,
He was
you know,
he was very eccentric.
Eccentric, but I'm more so referring to like how influential he was. So you know, essentially James Brown got his start in music by impersonating Little Richard. There were times Little Richard would just not show up for gigs, and he would send James Brown, because you know, in the Deep South, they're like, there's a black guy with crazy hair here. It must be Little Richard. Get him on stage. And he spent his early years.
They thought they were the same person.
Right, that's exactly right. A lot of the screaming that James Brown was known for came from him pretending to be Little Richard. The Beatles, before they became, you know, the sensation that they became, they essentially, Little Richard just took them under their wing. He went to London one time and he met these guys. And, he was like,
and Elvis stole all his swag from Little Richard.
That's exactly
right.
A lot of
you're not lying.
Yeah, a lot of the things that Elvis did was essentially emulating again Little Richard, and he got away with it because it was the segregated South, and it's a lot not even more, just more acceptable to have white girls screaming after a white Elvis Presley as opposed to a Little Richard kind of thing. And again, he's your favorite singer's favorite singer. That's who he is. Yeah. And it's just really hard to kind of express those thoughts whenever his most prolific performances were in black and white cameras. But these are important people that we're losing, and the thing about what becomes this modern era is they're not really great at giving credit where credit's due. And so what ends up happening is somebody like The Weeknd, although he might shout out Prince or he might shout out Little Richard or whatever the case may be, he's more than willing to take the brunt of the credit for his popularity kind of thing, where again, if you look back on it, the reason you can walk around with crazy hair and sing romance songs to white girls is because Little Richard took all the brunt of what comes with that. Right. And I just, we unfortunately give our freshest flowers when people are dead, but I wanted to make sure we touched on that before we moved on.
Most definitely.
Like even on Andre, I was expressing to someone who's younger than I, how, you know, I was so hurt by his death. Like Mary J. Blige's first album was the first cassette tape I ever bought. Right.
Dope.
Andre, and they was like, well, I don't even know who Andre is. I was so hurt. I was like, excuse, you don't know who, like, how do you not know? Like, if there was no Andre, there was no Diddy, and who then gave birth to everyone else. Like, how do you know one of the first Black moguls in, you know, the music industry? And like you were saying, Rico, like this generation does such a good job of forgetting. They forget all of the people who paved the way. Because even when you like talk about who's the best in, and you have all these little grimaces like today, and they have like the nerve to say, nah, Tupac and Biggie and Jay-Z like mentioned in the artists we have today. And for me, still, there's still no comparison to some of these artists that we have spewing this garbage that they call. But if they forget people who actually studied the game, like Biggie and Jay-Z studied dictionaries in order to get their flow and get the right words
to be
like,
lyrically heavy. Yeah.
yes, these people ain't doing that now. But
I'm tired of their names. Like you got Lil Baby and Da Baby before. Like before, the era before them was a whole bunch of Lils, and then there was the era before them was Young. And like I feel like we getting younger and younger. Like one of these days you gonna see rap artists named like Frankie the Fetus and Sperm Baby, something like that. Like I'm done, man.
Doll. Like where's the originality? Like why are y'all all dolls?
Yo,
who calls you this back at your in your hood?
Exactly.
Just to tie everything up full circle, how you kind of threw Mary J. Blige's in there and Biggie's name in there, right? And we also mentioned Betty Wright passed away, right? So Andre Harrell, technically, I wouldn't say he discovered Puff, but he definitely gave him a nice booth. Betty Wright was sampled in Mary J. Blige, Real Love, Mary J. Blige remix featuring Biggie, which comes from Puff, and Puff comes from Andre. So just all ties kind of full circle.
It all comes
it's just
full
crazy
circle,
how it all is nuts, man. We definitely losing some major pioneers, man.
Full
major
circle.
Pioneers.
Already lost a Kobe.
Man.
Like 2020 is just trash. Like throw 2020. Throw it
I'll
all.
punch 2020 in the mouth right now.
But
I can't. I can't hate.
hit.
I can't hate because many great things are going to be birthed in 2020. That's a little promo from me.
2020 is going to be the first year with a 13th month.
Listen, hey. After 2019, people's like, "Yo, 2020, that but
it never happened.
It was so trash."
That never happened.
But moving along, you know, we're still in the midst of COVID-19, coronavirus, and we've just this past Saturday, we've just entered phase one. We've just entered phase one, sort of a soft opening. You know, they've mandated that everyone wear a mask outside in public, which I think is ridiculous. I don't know why we need to wear it outside. That's just me. But I do wear it in buildings and such, but I don't feel like it's necessary to wear it in public. That's like, if I'm outside, like at the park, I think it's ridiculous. But, you know, I've tried many remedies. I've tried the WhatsApp Haitian remedies of boiling tea with a whole bunch of stuff in it. But I did find that Trump's suggestion did work. I drank some bleach the other day. Yeah, I'm clean on the inside, job.
He looks mad whiter too, buddy.
I tried some disinfectant on the inside.
That's why you don't understand why we need masks, because you're drinking bleach. Listen.
Are we opening too soon?
Are we opening too soon? The question is, the answer is, it depends. First off, to address the mask thing, it's more so, so if you're out in an open park and it's you, your wife, your kids, and nobody within 50 feet of you or 60 feet of you, there's no need to wear a mask.
Exactly. That's how I feel. Exactly.
Right. All right. So now, but if you're walking through a path and you're passing people and people are passing you on and so on and forth, put on the mask. The idea behind the mask, just to make it clear for our listeners, is we want to minimize the potential for spread. Yes. Right. That's all that is. So if you are riding in your car, you don't need to have a mask. If you walk into a store, put on your mask. If you're walking in an empty area, there's nobody around you, you don't need a mask. If you're walking through a walking path, passing people, yada, yada, blah, 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 you want to have a mask. Because ideally, we want to be able to, again, minimize the spread. As far as reopening, the reason why I say it depends is because not everywhere has the same amount of people. Not everywhere has the same amount of issues and potential for creating a hot. Right? So the reality of the situation is Brooklyn and Boise, Idaho shouldn't have the same rules.
No, they shouldn't have the same protocol.
Right. So the reality, what we're faced with here is a complete and total failure at the federal level. And so, because there is little to zero leadership up top, there's no real way to kind of gauge what it is each place should do. So what ends up happening is you got one group going, we're going to keep it tight, we're going to keep it whatever. We got another state going, it is what it is, do whatever you want. And now it becomes a disjointed, crazy looking thing where if we had a federal mandate, a federal guidelines in which these 17 things need to be in place, if you check off these 17 things, you're good to go. That's not what happened.
What I was going to say real quick, what they should have done is like they should have, this task force or whatnot, they should have grouped the states in a certain way that have the same statistics. So maybe you have high level. If we talking like we'll call it orange level for Trump's sake. If you have a high level of like corona cases and corona deaths, like a New York, a Boston, or any other place that's a hot zone for it, then this group of states follow this same protocol. And if a place like Rhode Island and Boise, Idaho, or even Wyoming, who I think 2 weeks ago only had up to then had one death from COVID-19, you get grouped into with other states that only have that little bit,
Right.
But
again,
it's a total mess.
We're overlooking the fact that like everything kind of, everything is slowly but surely opening up. I don't think it's a coincidence prior to that Kenneth Copeland, he blew the wind of God over COVID-19. So let's stop and give that man his credit. You understand what I'm saying? That's not fair.
Oh my God. No.
Hey, it was real windy the other day.
So look, this is where it gets.
Oh my God.
Open states, even with high level of new cases and deaths, such as California. Right, California still has a high level of states. However, they're starting to open. Georgia was one of the first idiots of states that reopened, and their levels keep climbing and climbing.
Georgia's not doing good right now. My God.
However, they are just free and open. Someone said, Trump stopped caring about coronavirus when they found out that the Black people were being affected by it the most. Who knows? It could be a conspiracy theory as well. But as we have seen with his leadership and blatant racism, it goes hand in hand. I think as much crap as they are giving Governor Raimondo, I think she's been doing a good job.
I think she's doing an impeccable job right now, man.
She's doing great.
Listen, hold on. We need to make something clear. There are a group of people out there making noise and screaming and honking enough already, whatever. But it's one of those things where, like, you look over at the group screaming and then you look over the group being quiet and you're like, there's literally 50,000 people on this side and 17 people over there.
Yeah.
If we're handing out grades or we're doing Governor Yelp or whatever, I got to give her 5 stars.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
It's been clear from the beginning. There's never been any like, we're gonna do this. There's never been any of that. It's like, hey, look, here's what we're working on. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's the thing we're looking at. And the people screaming enough already, or whatever the case may be. I always wonder, like, when you got in your car, there was a police car waiting at the end of your driveway. No, oh, okay. And then when you left your neighborhood, there was a police car who needed to see your ID. No, okay. You just drove to Providence, parked your car, walked over here. Nobody harassed.
I think how the signs on the highway tells you to get out for 14 days to like quarantine yourself. As soon as you cross back into like, where's it? There's no accountability. There's no communication. It's nuts, man.
Yo, I think we're gonna see a record low of police pullovers for Black people in this COVID era, because like ain't nobody getting pulled over right now.
Legit, I got by the other day.
Not in Georgia.
You got pulled the other day?
No, I got by. I was supposed to get pulled over. That's a fact.
Oh, you showed him a little shoulder?
No. God was with me.
He coughed on him.
But yeah, so
go ahead.
As far as reopening goes, we're in a difficult spot because again, the problem with the lack of leadership is it leads to chaos. That's really what all that's going on.
Absolutely.
So thankfully, we live in a state and a region that has competent people leading it. I'm from Florida, and with all due respect, people down there don't have competent people leading it. It's not because I disagree with the decisions that they make. I don't have to agree with a decision, but at the very least, I need to see some kind of thought. I need to see some kind of reasoning behind it, and I don't see that. Yeah. Secondly, I was having a conversation with my cousin, and it got me to thinking, like, how many people understand that the current numbers we're seeing are not accurate, not because we're being lied to, but because we don't have enough testing to get a great idea of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is there are places that are going, yeah, we only have 2 positive tests here. And it's like, it's a great point. However, what is the percentage of people you've tested? Exactly. Now, what's pretty clear that's going on on the federal level is they're going, we need to open things back up. We need the economy to get back going again because we need to be reelected. That's what's going on. And so they know that getting aggressive about testing is going to lead to more positive tests and push the reopening or whatever the case down the road.
And I think the example of that is Maryland, when they made a deal with Korea to get tests because there were not available tests in the United States.
Yeah, the American government wasn't
hold on. Wendy, I'm gonna let you finish, but I do want to cut you off just so our listeners understand how crazy what you just said was. The governor of Maryland, he happens to be a Republican and also happens to be married to a Korean woman. That allowed them because we were talking about a failure of leadership at the top. It just so happens that this man was married to a Korean woman who speaks the language and was able to negotiate PPE for the state.
That's dope.
It is dope, but it is also
sad.
It's a series of great coincidences that allowed this state to get this protective equipment that they needed.
He's married to the plug.
And listen, this is the last point I make. Apparently, in order to protect the personal protective equipment that they were able to negotiate by themselves, because he happens to be married to a Korean woman who speaks the language, in order to protect that equipment from the federal government, they have to have state troopers to protect the equipment.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Wendy, please continue. I cut you off.
No, yeah, it's completely fine. Not only the PPE, but to test their citizens for the coronavirus. And then you get Agent R on the stage talking about, oh, well, they didn't have to do that. Oh, he rushed and he was premature in his. However, just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, he was saying, well, the states are going to have to take it in their own hands and
fend for themselves.
Again, it is a complete and total. Listen to what Wendy just said. 2 weeks ago, you say, look, we're the federal government. We're not here to get PPE for people. We're not here to handle tests, yada, yada. You guys handle that yourself. A governor, again, who happens to be married to a Korean woman, negotiates a deal to do exactly what you just said, successfully does it, the media writes about it, and then you say, they didn't have to do that. We could have, and it's like, again.
That's Rick James. Yo, he is Rick James.
Man, at least Rick James could blame it on cocaine.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Oh my God.
So, to answer your original question, H, are we reopening too soon? The answer is kind of yes, because of a complete failure up top. We're not prepared. I need to make something clear to the listeners real quick. This disease is not the deadliest virus ever known to mankind. If you get it, you're not going to have your eyes bleeding and foam coming out of your mouth. You're not going to be
was worse.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, the survival rate of this particular virus is 97%. So yes, the media does report on the deaths because it's important to talk about that, but that represents 2 or 3% of the people who contracted it. That's what it is. That being said, there are things that need to be in place for us to be able to move out through the world freely. What do I mean by that? If we're supposed to get back to a quote unquote normal life, when I'm not feeling well, when I feel something in my throat that's tickling me, or I'm feeling warm, I'm not feeling right, I need to be able to go directly somewhere. If it's not a pharmacy, then an urgent care, whatever the case may be immediately tested, and then get confirmation of what I have.
Right.
But that's not where we are. Where we are right now is, yes, we happen to live in a phenomenal state in which there's so many testing options, they're closing them down, but that's not the case for everybody. And then there's not enough PPE out there.
Yeah.
And so to say, okay, effective June 1st, everybody go back to your life the way it was pre-pandemic is irresponsible. That's just the reality of the situation.
Shout out to the ones that are creating their own masks, man. Shout out to you. Y'all doing a great
Most
job.
definitely. One day.
We look at who's pushing for like to reopen, and you know, we have this militia of Americans who have the privilege of standing at various state houses with armed with rifles and, you know, spewing their, I want to get my hair done, I need my barber, I need
Liberate.
Dog, dude showed up with a full hazmat
for
suit
400 years.
saying the COVID is a hoax, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to make a quick observation. If Wendy was an adult in the 1960s, you do know she'd be a Black Panther, right?
Yes, she would.
Yes.
Yes, she would be.
I thought I
Yes,
was
she
the
would be.
only one.
Yes.
Continue, Wendy.
Yes.
like, it just screams privilege that they refuse to acknowledge that they have. The fact that you can stand in the public screaming like banshees at police officers who are not doing anything
at all.
They're not restraining you. They're not throwing tear gas. They're not putting their hands on their freaking guns or threatened because they feel threatened. But let an unarmed Black man stroll through the damn streets, and you got your hand on your gun. You say put your hands up. He puts his hands up, and you're still feeling threatened. But all these white people with all these rifles are standing at these damn state houses across the country, demanding for their American right that this country be reopened. But nobody scared.
Preach.
Nobody scared. Nobody scared.
Nope.
But Kaepernick kneel, and he's un-American. How dare he? I do not even understand sometimes
This lady's spitting right now.
Yeah, she's going hard.
Look, I wonder if there's a lot of research by prominent African Americans who state the fact that they believe segregation was the biggest mistake that Black people ever did. Right? Black people ever fought for. And here's the reason why. Though we were free and not given our just due after working, to build this country for all these years unpaid and didn't get our 40 acres and a mule. Okay, fine. We still built a lot of things for ourselves, right? We had the Black
Wall Street,
right? Central Park in itself was an affluent Black neighborhood, which is one of the main reasons why they tore it down and put a damn park in the middle of it. Black neighborhood, right? So we have the power to be great by ourselves.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And there is a line of thinking that in allowing integration, And again, I'm not. I haven't figured out where I fall on the matter. Right.
That's all right.
I would love us all to live harmoniously together. I believe that is what God had in mind when He created, His people. But we're idiots. But so with integration, we set ourselves. Now we have this standard of what America says we should not have our crowns, right? There was a law against wearing our natural hair. Like Black women had to have their hair wrapped at all times. The law against Black women having their
and
hair
y'all
out.
made that fashionable.
And we made that fashionable.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I know I kind of strayed from the original question.
That's all right.
Are we reopening too soon? But I think it poses a bigger question, and it shows the big disparities in races, in social economic statuses, because unfortunately the poor and the melanated are the most affected by this virus.
Yeah.
Is that why we're in a rush? Like, I wonder if, let's say, Boise, Idaho had all its people being affected by this.
I think they make white people there.
But
that's not science. Here's the reality of the situation, right? Today, right before we got on, I was listening to a news update, and apparently the White House has decided that they're going to require everybody in the West Wing to wear masks. Why is that? Well, because the president's personal valet tested positive. That's not funny. That's not funny.
His directed.
That's not funny. The president's personal valet tested positive. Stephen Miller's wife, aide to the vice president, tested positive. And if I'm not mistaken, one of Ivanka Trump's aides tested positive as well. So what's going on? The people in the West Wing are getting sick. And they're testing positive. I don't know how severe their symptoms are or whatever the case may be. So now, apparently, Trump is furious about this. He feels like he's not. Yo, one.
Yo,
I knew this was real from the beginning.
Nuts. This guy's nuts.
I knew it was real from the beginning.
Yeah, got to get it together, man.
We've done tremendous work.
My fault. Keep going, Rico. Keep going. My fault.
So here's what's interesting. So the White House is shutting down, right? And what I mean by that, Dr. Fauci is now going to self-quarantine. Dr. Bricks is now self-quarantining, just to be on the safe side or whatever the case may be. I would imagine they probably just want to get a break from, random questions and random meetings. But the point is that if we're ready to reopen, why are you guys shutting down? Right? If we're ready, if we're ready as a nation to get things going again, why is it all of a sudden people are self-quarantining this person and now you're furious? What that tells me is if you cannot contain this virus within a tiny space, which is the West Wing, why are you telling states to liberate themselves? So,
exactly. I feel you on that.
For me, I've arrived at this place where I'm like, okay, I cannot control other people's actions, right? Like, if I'm riding down the street, if I just get to a red light and I'm looking over at the car next to me, nobody's wearing a seatbelt. I'm looking at a 3-year-old doing pull-ups on the handle thing or whatever the case may be. I'm not
like my daughter.
Put that car over and strap everybody in. I'm gonna say a very quick prayer before the light turns green. God, let them get to their destination. But I can't control that family. I can't control that house. What I can do is look in my rear view and be like, hey, buckle in, everybody sit down, whatever, you know what I mean? Just because that's who I'm responsible for.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the federal government is tweeting, liberate yourselves, liberate this, liberate that. Meanwhile, he's screaming at people around him not to cough in his direction, where's your mask? That tells you what you need to know.
Exactly.
Right? If it was time to reopen, if it was time to get things fired up or whatever the case may be, you would have done the things necessary for us to do that. So, for me, I just want to stress a couple of points. This virus is real. This is not 5G. This is not a government conspiracy. And yes, they opened up hair salons and barbershops and different things like that, but it is not to attack Black people. That's not what that is. It quite literally is somebody wants to be reelected. The economy has come to a screeching halt, primarily
14.3 unemployment rate.
Listen, and apparently that number represents, again, just like the lack of testing, that unemployment represents the number of people who are able to tell the government that I don't have a job.
Exactly.
Apparently there's a ton of people who just can't do it. They can't get access to the system. And so for me, again, the virus is real. This is not the deadliest virus in the world, but we need to be careful because it impacts the people in different ways. And that being said, they can come out and say effective May 20th, everything is open, go out and do what you need to do. It's on us who have to protect ourselves. This is not the first time in American history that Black people realize the thing that the government says doesn't help them.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Most definitely. And it just, this isn't the worst one. And it just goes to show that if a worse one comes, which it will, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah. If current administration.
Say again, Wendy?
If we still have this current administration.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. Well, Wendy, what you touched upon when you spoke is a great segue into our next topic, and that is the assassination of brother Ahmaud Arbery, who was gunned down February 23rd while he was on a run, and two men went in hot pursuit of him, father and son, and a third man filmed the whole thing. And
3 white men.
They chased him down, and he was unarmed, and they thought he was a burglar, but he had nothing on him for him to be burglaring anything. But the video's chilling, it's disturbing, and it's hard to understand how someone who considers himself a human being to be able to do that to someone else.
A Christian as well.
Christian.
Yeah.
God-fearing men.
Yes.
God-fearing men.
Good God help them. But yeah, it's very chilling, very disturbing, and it just it reopens old wounds that we're sort of used to. It looks too much like the Trayvon Martin incident that happened, and the countless others, that have had this happen where they're unarmed and they get 26 rounds put into their car. Like it's just it keeps happening, and it's sad. And so we're here, and we've seen, and in the social media age, we've now seen way too many killings in front of our own eyes. And so it's like we're at this point. Well, let me just say, let me not say we, but I'm at this point, and it's like, what do I do with this now? Like that I see this. It's like this is the 20th time I've seen this. This is the 30th, however many times you want to put it on. But it's like, what do we do with this now?
What I do personally, is I go to get my blue card.
I saw you put something in the frame.
Sure did. I go get my blue card, which allows you to buy a gun, because honestly, it's just time to protect yourself, right? There's even a time in the Bible. This is like after Judas betrays Jesus. He's telling his disciples, "Yo, when I sent you guys out before, I sent you guys out, no bag, no nothing. You were taken care of, right?" It's like, yeah, you sure did. He came back and said, "All right, cool. Now go get your bag, go get your cloak. In fact, go get a sword, It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, we got 2 swords. Is that good? He's like, yep, that's definitely enough. So you got to get the strap. You have to protect yourself. That's the bottom line to it. No matter what you believe in, who you believe in, protect yourself, because it's crazy out here. It's crazy. This is a weapon. You understand what I'm saying? Honestly, it's the truth. Some people consider it as a weapon. Every time you felt your life was in danger, are you serious? Get out of here. Go somewhere. You got the wrong job.
But the state officers with rifles were never deemed threats, and police officers never, and I understand that police officers were not the one who killed this poor young man. However, we have seen time and time again where police kill Black and brown people, stating that they were threats even though they were unarmed. However, you have these crazed white people screaming in your faces with rifles, yet not one time did you pull out your weapon and trigger.
Yes.
Not one time. Like, I am so mentally drained with the Black men. Like, I cannot. You know, I have Black brothers, I have a Black husband, I have a Black father, I have Black men in my life, you know, and just knowing that a person has the power, and I didn't say right, I said power, to take your life away because of the color of your skin, and it go like swept under the rug for months and months. Like, this went on for 2 months until the video made its way out and we started demanding that. Like, these men were just chilling, living their life. Like, yeah, we killed
and
that.
the video was for the vindication of the 2 men who killed him too. It wasn't for the purpose of Ahmaud.
Yeah.
That is, and now their current justification is there's video of Ahmaud at a construction site just looking around, and they're like,
take nothing.
Hold on.
It was a construction site that this man was standing in, and now they are trying to use that to vindicate these 3 men for murdering this guy who was just taking a jog. Like, it's just ridiculous.
So, you know, I pride this show on making sure we convey accurate information and try to dispel false information that's out there. So, you know, this is another murder, right? I want to establish that first. I did see some troubling information earlier, but it does follow a pattern. So usually the way this works is there's a murder, and then there's a cover-up, and then the cover-up gets exposed, and then there's a character assassination.
Picture of him in an art.
Right? So it's murder, cover-up, exposure of the cover-up, character assassination, and then an exoneration. There was a murder committed on February 23rd. All right? 3 men pursued a young Black male. This is not a new concept. Cornered him, and with weapons drawn, an altercation took place, and then now there's a murder. Immediately after, there's a quick write-up that says we can't charge these guys. Here's the reason why, whatever the case may be. Then you fast forward to over the weekend, a video comes out showing what it is that took place. And so the exposure happened last week, and now we're in the character assassination phase of this process. Now, here's the reality of the situation. This won't be the first time in which somebody ends up dead, usually a minority or a poor person, whatever the case may be. And then when you look into the background of what it is that they were doing at the time, it turns into, well, that's the reason why this happened. So there apparently is, and I did see the footage of Ahmaud walking through a home that's being built. The footage is captured from a neighbor's home. That neighbor apparently called 911, saying there is a Black male with a white shirt walking through a home that's being built. So the call goes in, and the police are on their way to come address the call. He is murdered before that happens. It is a difficult thing to discuss because, you know, one says, well, why are you walking through that area, whatever the case may be. To me, it is what it is on that. Even if he walked out with a toolbox,
it doesn't justify
you allow
a
the police to do
shotgun.
their work. Here's the problem. These southern states have effectively legalized lynching. What do I mean by that? In Georgia, if you are a citizen who witnesses a crime, you have the right to confront the criminal, quote unquote criminal. If that confrontation goes bad, you have the right to, quote unquote, stand your ground.
What was the crime?
Hold on. In Georgia, even if you don't see the crime, if you are aware of a crime within your vicinity and you're aware of the person who did it, you are allowed to confront that person. Now, Wendy's asking an important question. What's the crime? The answer to that question is, I guess, trespassing. I don't really know, but I do know that Georgia law, and we can provide that information in the show information as well. Georgia law actually protects the white men in this video, because the way it's going to be presented is these two men were aware of a crime, and that's the way the the citizen's arrest statute works. When you are aware of a crime, you are legally allowed, again in Georgia, to confront said criminal or the person committing the act. And in the event that confrontation goes bad, you are allowed to protect your life, even if you engage the interaction. So the video we saw was a murder. The problem is not that under Georgia law, the way these circumstances came about, it's not murder. They're going to present it as two citizens tried to make an arrest of somebody they saw committing a crime.
They will.
And again, the way the statute is written, it protects these guys. That's why I said lynching has become legalized. So back in the day, the lynchings were citizens going after somebody they believe committed a crime and then punishing him in the streets. That's the way that worked. There's no real difference here, except for the fact that you can now point to a law that says when you believe somebody has committed a crime, you are allowed to confront the criminal. And if that interaction goes bad, you're allowed to kill him. So we've entered the character assassination. I would imagine later this week, we're going to hear of instances where he was rude to somebody. His 5th grade teacher is going to say, I had to suspend him for, you know, I don't even know, whatever the case may be. And then,
white women.
and then we'll get to the exoneration. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, the state of Georgia has taken over the case, and they'll put together a press conference saying, here's the reason we have to let these
and
people go.
And they're gearing it up to make, and I hate to be what's the word I'm looking for? I hate to be like the downer, the Debbie Downer, or I hate to put like a bad light on it, but they're gearing this up so that the exoneration is justified. They put a black prosecutor on this case. And so the then excuse would be like, well, it was a black prosecutor. Like if there was anybody who was able to be able to put these two men away, it should have been her. And they put her on it, and she couldn't even, like, this is what they're gearing this up for, you know? And so you kind of have to, after something like Botham Jean, you have to prepare your heart and your mind for that possibility, not even possibility, but inevitability that this is going to happen, you know? And so it's like, you know, and you hope that some circus stunt of the mother hugging the two murderers saying, I forgive you. Like, you hope that you know, I don't want to see none of that. I don't want to see none of that. You know what I'm saying? It's
are what makes me like go on the side of, you know what, just give us the crappiest part of the country. We gonna make it prosper, but just leave us the hell alone. Don't bother us. We gonna build, we will boom and we will prosper, because
that's how it was in Egypt.
We gonna take the NBA with us. We gonna take We're gonna take everything with us.
We're gonna take our music. You can't, bite off of our TikTok videos. Like, we're gonna take it. Like,
We're gonna take
us,
all our good.
this country would be depleted. Like, if Black people never came to this North American soil, this country would not be what it is.
No, it wasn't.
Just the fact that you had free labor for many years that you did not pay anyone for, and then after that free labor, okay, y'all are free. You still can't get educated. You still can't, like,
yeah.
And we still made it from that.
And we still push through, yeah.
Still from, like, yo, leave us alone. Like, we don't need your police. We don't need your government. Like, we'll have our own president. Like, just give us. You could give us the crappiest. I promise you, we will make it prosperous.
We'll be all right.
You will blow it up again.
We'll be all right.
Well, there's another situation that's actually going on. Not saying just like the Ahmaud Arbery case, but there's a case. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but it's a female EMT that got murdered.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yes.
She was a young 26-year-old female, I think a single mother, Wendy?
I don't remember if she was a single mother or not.
But they came together to do a house raid. They kicked her door down, wrong apartment, shot up her home 22 times.
Wow.
Killing her. Then again, to find out that the person was already arrested hours earlier.
Wow.
A Black 26-year-old EMT.
Wow.
They announced themselves. However, none of the neighbors state that the neighbors state that they did not hear any police official identify themselves as the police. But again, this is like vigilante. We do what we want to who we want, where we want, depending on where you live. We're gonna do whatever we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Get the strap.
Exactly. I was just about to say, at this point,
Wrapped over here.
It's man, listen.
Look,
yo, man.
It's important. It's important that we keep our heads about us. The reality of the situation is, I know a lot of people are ready for war, but we're not prepared for battle. There are a variety of different approaches to this, and it becomes a thing where resources become an issue, all types of different things, and it just becomes an unsustainable kind of conversation to have. The reality of the situation is the machine of oppression is not going to be put down with bullets. That's just not.
It's well oiled.
Definitely is. Well oiled with the blood of slaves.
Yeah.
Like, we are not the same people of the civil rights movement. We are not the same caliber of.
You're right, Wendy, and because we're not people of action. The reality of the situation is like most people will not go places with unreliable Wi-Fi. So to now go, hey, let's make a movement. It becomes a battle cry, but the next versus battle get announced, and we'll kind of move on and kind of accept the reality for what it is. The difficulty we're having here is there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there of what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, if your theory of what's actually going on would make a phenomenal movie, chances are good it's not what's actually going on. Where we stand now is the laws I just described to you were passed in very boring meetings, right? A group of people sat in a room, likely behind a desk. Somebody announced what they were about to pass. The group said is Georgia Statute 17-60-12 is up for review. For all who agree, say aye. The group said aye. They hit a gavel and they moved on. That's a very boring thing. If you look at the document that it's on, it's just black and white Times New Roman font.
Yeah.
On a white page. But that document is actually more damaging than quote unquote 5G.
Yeah.
And so the problem with me saying we need to look into Georgia law statute 17-60-B is it immediately loses interest. Now, if I start talking about why 5G networks and different, that gets people's attention.
Right.
So now the problem is while we're all looking at 5G networks and they opened up barbershops and all of this other stuff, it's these boring looking documents. I'm trying to find, it's documents like these that are actually dangerous. This is the stuff that's dangerous. It's not 5G networks. That's not really the issue. So we have a young black man who was murdered on February 23rd. Nothing happened. And then a video came out and it required action. The problem is when they look into it and they find this document, they got to cut the guys loose, right? The letter of Georgia law says when you are aware of a crime and you see the person who you believe committed the crime, it is okay for you to engage that person. And if that engagement goes wrong, it is okay to protect your life. So the video we saw, as shocking as it might be, looks like it's legal. That doesn't make it right? Slavery was legal. That didn't make it right.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. I understand the sentiment of all of us arming ourselves. Unfortunately, without another stimulus check, a lot of us can't buy a gun.
And if we did
stop
get
buying them
another
Jordans,
one,
then take them Jordans off, take them True Religion jeans
now
off, take them
you
polo
sound-
shirts
now
off,
you
take them
be at
fake Gucci
Expressions
belts
and
off, and
Evelyn
arm
standing in
yourself.
line waiting to buy another pair.
Hold on. Now you sound like you got a MAGA hat, right? Because that's what they say. They say we buy Jordans, we have too many kids.
It's the truth, though.
It's the truth.
It's the
We
truth.
buy too
It's
many Jordans
100%
and we have
true.
too
You
many
can buy a burner for the same price that you buy the $220 Jordans for, and you can get your blue card for free.
It's necessarily I think that not enough people understand where the true importance lies. There was this stupid uproar about the people in lines for the Jordans, and people be in lines for like movie tickets and Star Wars.
Sure.
Yeah, they in line for Cracker Barrel too.
But they're interested, and some people are in line. Well, I don't think a lot of them, but some people are in line in a more intelligent, a financial intelligent way. They're gonna cop these Jordans and turn around and flip them for double the price because they're sold out and they stood in line.
That very well may be true, but here's the bigger.
I do feel like individuals, especially brown individuals, need to have some sort of protection in their home, because in the beginning of everything locking down, you should have seen the lines at the gun stores of people buying ammunition, and they did not look like us. The people that hours in lines at the gun stores to buy ammunition did not look like us. That makes me think, what the hell are y'all preparing for? Do I need to prepare for whatever y'all preparing for? Because y'all standing hours in line to get all this ammunition and I don't got none? Like, what?
I don't want to fall off topic, Wendy, because I totally agree with you. But it comes with this falls in line with the religious beliefs as well, right? You go ahead and you take Jesus and you put it on everything. When Jesus, you know what I mean? Jesus, with the same thing with Corona. The blood of Jesus. Man, shut up.
91 and hallelujah.
Okay. All right. We don't need to hear none of that. Those are sayings. Those are stickers you put on your damn bumper card. This is real life. Wake the hell up. Wake the hell up, man. Seriously. Because people are dying in these streets and we're going to say, rely on Jesus. Man, shut up. Because what did Jesus say? Action speaks louder than words. If you didn't feed that person that's hungry, then what the hell are you talking about? You understand? So if there's a problem, if there's, just like Rico said, I believe there's ways to attack the situation from top to bottom. I believe one of the most dangerous things besides paperwork is an educated person, especially of melanin color, able to break down to the kids in the streets like, this is what it is. That's a dangerous person. You know what I'm saying?
So
I think both are very.
Exactly. So when D says
100%.
we need to stay strapped, it's not an ignorant comment. It's a comment saying that we need to be educated of what's going on. You have to protect yourself. You do see what's going on here. You have to be, because at the end of the day, the ones that, and I'm not being prejudiced, but what's being portrayed out in the streets and videos is that the black kids that are young and wild are the ones that are holding the straps. You feel what I'm saying?
You know what's most frustrating
You know what I mean?
too, by the way, is that in 2020, we're currently having the same conversations that were had in 1960, the same conversations that were had in 1940, and likely the same conversations that were had in 1910.
Crazy.
In the end, where do we stand? We stand as a group of people who are sick of seeing the same pattern of violence against us without punishment.
Over and over.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty we have here with this specific murder is, like I said before, it appears that Georgia law protects the men who committed the murder. And that is the part of this that is the most frustrating.
100%.
So my position is not, nah, man, love is going to solve this. You pray for your fellow man and everything will be okay. That's not what my position is. My position also is not grabbing our weapons and firing at people who don't look like us, because that ends badly for us.
Not
That's
at all.
Exactly. Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
So where I am now is frustrated. I'm prepared for what inevitably comes next, which is an analysis of how we can charge these men. But again, unfortunately, the way these laws are written, it protects them in a way that makes it difficult to successfully convict these men.
So Rico, you're saying that we should change these laws, or we should fight to change the law that's going on here.
Put the people in position.
So
is that what you're saying, Rico?
So the short answer is yes, but that's not a federal issue. Again, federalism makes it to where Georgia law protects these men, like I said. So it's not an issue of switching out Trump. At the end of the day, that law that was passed in a quiet room, the boring laws, is what hurts us the most. So until that changes, we can't.
I think you know, black and brown people, we have a plethora of gifts and talents that are just kind of like ingrained and we're born with. I used to work in the physical therapy rehab realm, and so when we're going to attack an ailment, whether it be lower back pain or it be knee reconstruction or hip surgery, one of the things that is principle is that we don't attack it. We don't attack an ailment just in one way or in one dimension. We apply many different types of attack methods in order so that all of those things can kind of work together to form a solution or to bring a healing to whatever that is. You know, if it's lower back pain, we're going to prescribe exercise. We're also going to prescribe stretching. We're also going to prescribe massage. We're also going to prescribe some other modalities like electronic stimulation. And so we attack it from all sides. And so there's not just one necessary solution, because us black and brown people, we have so many different, ways of approaching things. Not that they're contrary to each other, but they work in accordance with each other. You know, right now on this screen, we have one in the mental health industry. We got one in the group home industry. We got one who's knowledgeable and strapping up. And knowing people who can and having information about getting blue card. We have one who's got knowledge in the law. Mm-hmm. And so and I think that people think that we're not doing this, and we have to understand that because we have all these gifts and talents and we're all working at that, it feels like you're throwing throwing a glass of water at a huge house fire. Mm-hmm. But we have to understand that, you know, what we're doing right now is going to make an impact. And maybe I'm being too optimistic. We have to understand that many hundreds of years of something may take many hundreds of years to undo.
Yes.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so we're working at it, and it feels like, because we're in the middle of it, that, yo, this ain't working. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that we have made some progress.
No, you're very, very true. And even just to go back, right? When I first when I was in California, right? Gang violence is crazy out there. Californians, they shooting. They just shooting out there, right?
So what I did gang violence
was I spoke to a local person from California. She told me everything I had to do as far as paperwork goes. So I had the knowledge, okay, D, this is what you have to do. This is how you have to carry. And when you're driving out and about, this is how far the gun has to be from the clip, and so on and so forth, right? Rico's pretty much talking about the same exact thing as far as the laws go. There has to be some sort of knowledge. While everything is going on and everybody's looking at the 5G conspiracy and so on and so forth, there's the people that really matter in the room, in the office, that voted these elected officials in, that are making these plans to make laws happen that we might not necessarily agree with and we can't do anything about, honestly, when it comes down to it. I totally believe you, Rico, that when it comes down to it, it's the stand your ground thing, right? League, everything looks good now, all right? Let's shut these people up. Let's put a pacifier in their mouth real quick. But listen, by the letter of the law, these guys did exactly what the law said to do, right? And us not doing anything about it, meaning, well, I don't vote. I ain't gonna vote because it doesn't do anything for anybody.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in right there, right? Because you just hit the nail on the head. Right now, there's a group of people who, you know, not even right now, right? So we're gonna fast forward a few months or whatever the case may be, and you're gonna start hearing that your vote don't matter. It don't matter, dog. Don't nothing change anyway. It's a waste of time. Yada yada, blah blah blah. Fine. So whenever we hit these cases here, where I'm looking at a video of two guys with guns, one guy with nothing in his hands, and the guy with nothing in his hands is a criminal, when he's dead, don't talk to me about nothing matters, because what you just said is exactly what it is. The fact of the matter is, there's a sexy version of this, which is, there's a sexy version of liberation, right? Which is the oppressed people say enough is enough. They pick up bats, they pick up guns, and they fight their way to liberation.
Sounds like Haiti.
Unfortunately, that's been successful one time. It just so happens we're all Haitians, and we all laugh because we know what that one time. So we take pride in it.
It cost us a lot to this day.
That's exactly right. Right?
Sure does.
The one time liberation has worked, we're still paying for it. Excuse me, the one time violent liberation worked, we're still paying for it today. So that tells me that if slavery has been something that's been an oppression or whatever the case may be, has been something in existence since the beginning of man, and the one time it worked, hundreds of years later, that group of people is still paying for that original sin of taking their freedom violently. That tells me that likely isn't the model we should follow. The fact of the matter is, the unsexy version of this is decades of taking apart these laws that, again, they don't make for good YouTube videos. They really don't. This document, if I read it, y'all would immediately, rightfully be like, man, I don't want to hear the agreement application of set forth that I don't want to hear that. But those words on those boring pages is what's going to set these guys free. just because I want to reiterate the point, we're back in the cycle.
Yep.
Atrocity is committed against us. Cover-up takes place, and then if you're lucky, the cover-up gets exposed. A video comes out, somebody quits the office and says this happened, whatever the case may be. We all look at it and go, that's awful. And then the character assassination happens, which is where we are now. He was walking through a construction site. He was investigated prior to this. He's not wearing running shoes. He was wearing boots. That's not somebody who's running.
He was wearing khaki shorts.
Right. Look, why is he looking around? Whatever. So that's where we are now. And then it preps the situation for, again, the correct legal conclusion, which is we got to cut these guys loose. So how do you remedy this? Decades and decades of boring work, right? There was a time in which the Irish were the N-words of America.
For sure.
And now the Irish are the police and this, that, and the third. That became the Italians. The Italians for a long time were the N-words. They were the ones committing crimes. And now Italians scream Trump support the loudest. They believe they are white as well. And so do we need to become white? We can't do that. We'll never be able to slick back our hair.
I don't want to.
We're never going to look
No,
the
thank
part.
you.
But what we
can
do is do the decades of work to make it to where, you know, these murders become a bad idea, or the people committing them are a little more hesitant. Which, if this was a young white male poking through, looking through, whatever the case may be, oh, dude, I'm just drunk. I really drunk yesterday. It would have given him a ride home. Unfortunately, as it stands here, this is where we are. So I'm with you on the frustration. I just my tank for outrage is empty. I'm just I'm at a point of just focused on changing these boring documents.
Yeah.
I think so. Before we end out,
yeah.
I have a feeling that's where you was going, right, Harry?
Yeah, go ahead. No, you good.
So, you know, my outrage comes from, I think, a disturbance in my own mental health, because this is draining me, as I stated previously, and we as a country have become so desensitized to people dying. I chose not to watch the video. I don't want to watch another person who looks like my family murdered. But we as a country have become so desensitized. Like, people are sharing these videos. People shared Kobe's crash site, right? Something is happening in our inner psyche, and we're not realizing it with the accessibility of social media being what it is now. You know, so I just want to take a quick second just to tell people, like, if you find yourself being overly exhausted, right? If you're drained, if you're tired, if you're becoming tired, can't figure out why nothing else has changed, it's your mental health. Your body is telling you that you need to pull away. Stop watching. Log off. Stop listening. There's a lot coming in. We have everyone dying from COVID, unfortunately affecting our people greater. Therefore, we have more bad news. On top of that, we're still being attacked. We're still being oppressed, right? On top of that, you know, unfortunately, we're still on the lower social economic status, right? And so you have all of and then our kids are home all day. I recently took leave so I can be the one to do the school, and so not all day with the kids is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Take time for your own mental health, whatever that could mean for you. If you need to even schedule 20 minutes to go for a walk, schedule alone time, lock yourself in the bathroom, do something that you just take a break away, because look, I feel like I'm like this close to just breaking down every that I hear something new about us just being continually attacked and slaughtered and murdered and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, to leave it off, you know, with some encouraging words, this type of thing is not going to end tomorrow, but keep, to everyone listening to this, keep your hand to the plow, keep that work going in whatever realm you're in, whether it be law, mental health, all those things are making a crack in that glass ceiling that we're still under, you know, and whatever you're doing, you know, it may not seem significant or feel significant, but you are you're breaking paradigms in your world, in your environment to like push this forward. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, we're not going to wait for people to respect us. We're going to respect ourselves and do it right.
Damn
You
straight.
know,
We got to
wanna
host a
thank you.
seminar, ladies and gents. We have enough knowledge with us five, to be honest with you. There's enough knowledge and there's enough influence for us to go out there and empower a lot of these people out here that don't have the knowledge about certain things that we have. So it definitely is, you know, it's on everybody, but it's on us as well.
Most definitely. You know, we thank y'all for listening in. This is your man, Young Brother Better Preach, Harry, with D1, Rico, and Wendy. This is Beyond the Walls, y'all. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Peace.